Hey, do you guys remember that old show about a bear who wore clothes and ate picnic food? What was it called? Oh yeah, Barney Bear. Oh, that's not what you were thinking? Well, listen up for a second, because I got something pretty interesting to tell you. So the other night, I was scrolling through Boomerang looking for a show to watch, when something caught my attention. It was a show titled Barney Bear. The thumbnail looked really old, and I instantly thought of Yogi Bear. My first thought was, I wonder if this was like source material for Yogi. A lot of cartoons back then had similar premises and characters, but without even watching an episode, it just felt too familiar. So I started with the first episode listed on Boomerang, which was titled Barney Bear's Polar Pest. The episode was on par for the usual slapstick style we see in Tom and Jerry, and I thought maybe the only similarities this show will have with Yogi is that they're both bears. I finished that episode and another, and I was about to turn it off when the episode Barney's Hungry Cousins started. As soon as the episode started, I noticed something super interesting. This episode was taking place in a national park called Jellystone. Like the fictional Jellystone Park, turned real life park made famous by Yogi Bear cartoons. I immediately got on Google, searching as hard as I could on the relevancy between the two shows, and I quickly hit a dead end. I found almost nothing directly tying the idea of Yogi Bear to Barney Bear. But that didn't feel right. I mean, I'm looking at a completely made up park name with a bear and picnic baskets existing in two different shows. So I looked harder, and this is what I came up with. So the show Barney Bear was an MGM cartoon that premiered in 1939 with the episode The Bear That Couldn't Sleep. This was a play on hibernation and would be often used throughout the series. The show ran for 26 episodes, ending in 1954. Only 24 episodes are on Boomerang though. One episode was obviously left off the platform for racist stereotypes against black people, which is like, come on, why are we doing this? But the other one, I'm not sure why it's not on Boomerang. It has gun violence, but there are other episodes that show that as well that weren't removed. Regardless, the show was somewhat popular for its time. Yogi Bear, however, was a completely different monster. The character Yogi first came out in a segment on the Huckleberry Hound show, just 4 short years after Barney Bear stopped production. The segment was called Yogi Bear's Big Break, where ironically, opposite of Barney Bear, who was entering the park in the beginning of the episode and being escorted out by the ranger at the end, Yogi Bear is trying to leave the park at the beginning, but gets stopped by the ranger and is unable to get back in the park at the end after he finally escapes. At this point, I feel like it's pretty obvious that Hanna-Barbera took inspiration for Yogi Bear from the Barney's Hungry Cousin episode of Barney Bear. I just don't understand why Barney is never officially credited anywhere that I could find. But where my video started out as a question about the origin of Yogi Bear and Jellystone has now evolved into a different question entirely. What made Yogi Bear succeed so much with a concept that was already done? First, I'll have to explain what I mean by that. By the time Yogi came along, there were already tons of cartoon bears out there. There was Barney, Humphrey, Rupert, Winnie, and Smokey Bear, just to name a few. The bear concept was nothing new, and an argument could be made that it was played out. But I guess it could also be argued, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We love our teddy bears, come on. In the case of Barney compared to Yogi, it's about time and execution. Barney had an okay character design, but no strong personality and very little voice acting. And when you do hear him speak, it's really bland and forgettable. Think Tom from Tom and Jerry.
In me power.
Most of the episodes, Barney interacted with the world and nature more so how a human would. Hunting animals, fighting off bears from taking his lunch, getting drafted for the army, and farming. Yeah, Yogi did human things as well, but the basis was usually bear first, human second. Barney just feels like a human who looks like a bear. Yogi, on the other hand, had an iconic character design and an extremely unique voice.
Because I'm smarter than the average bear?
Doesn't matter how bad you do the voice, you could say anything, and people can tell that you're doing a Yogi Bear impression. Yogi's show also benefited from recurring themes like stealing the picnic basket, tussles with the ranger, and Boo Boo. And we can't forget the catchphrases. Barney had none of that. The only recurring thing was the hibernation shtick, which got old the first time around. Yogi also benefited from the environmental movement kicking off in the late 60s continuing on. People were becoming more environmentally conscious, new legislation was being introduced to protect it, and national parks were becoming even more popular. Yogi Bear became almost synonymous with national parks, and there was even a park franchise by the name of Jellystone Parks that was created in the late 60s completely themed around Yogi Bear. Overall, I think there was just more care and attention put into the Yogi Bear show compared to Barney Bear. After all, Yogi was supposed to be the star of the Huckleberry Hound show, but the execs just didn't want that to be. The concept obviously stemmed from the Barney Bear's Hungry Cousin episode. But Yogi Bear took that one episode concept and turned it into a beloved series that is still remembered to this day. The Yogi character is probably one of the most memorable of all time. If we're putting Mickey Mouse, SpongeBob, and Homer Simpson in S tier, Yogi would at least be in B tier, if not higher. I guess Drake said it best. It ain't about who did it first, it's about who did it right. Tell me what you guys think about cartoons taking ideas from somewhere else but executing better. Name some if you know some. And if you made it this far, take the time to drop a like and subscribe. It helps the channel and keeps you up to date on my videos. And it makes me happy. See ya.